It's 6:30. I'll call this meeting to order. Kevin, would you call the roll, please?
All right, let's see here.
Mrs. Least.
Mr. Hannah.
Here.
Mrs. Least.
Here.
Sorry. Mrs. Sweet.
Here.
Mr. Whitaker.
Here.
Mr. Bear.
Here.
Mr. Avery.
Here.
All members of council are present, and welcome everyone. Happy New Year, happy 2024. This is the date and time that the Enon Village Council has set for its organizational meeting. First of all, unfortunately, our fiscal officer, Mr. Storm, is under the weather this evening, so we hope quick recovery for him. But let's get off to our first item of business on our agenda for the organizational part. And we would have the date and time set for our council meetings. Typically, those had been starting, well, they started at 7:30 originally, and then they went to 7 and were 6:30. Kevin and I spoke a little bit earlier today, and I would like to recommend, if the council is in agreement, that we have a start time of 6 o'clock on the second and fourth Tuesdays of each month.
So moved.
I'll second.
And that's moved by Mr. Whitaker and seconded by Mrs. Sweet. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Whitaker.
Yes.
Mrs. Sweet.
Yes.
Miss Least.
Yes.
Mr. Bear.
Yes.
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
Mr. Hannah.
Yes.
And 6 o'clock it is. Very good. Next item of business, we have election of our council president for 2024. What I will do is I will open up the floor from a motion and a second to accept nominations. Once those nominations have been laid out on the floor and recorded, then we will close that by motion and second. And if we need to do, Kevin, some type of a informal ballot, we'll call on you. But I will call for a motion and a second to open up the floor for nominations.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Whitaker and seconded by Mr. Bear. And now we are ready for nominations for President of Council for 2024.
I nominate Rick Hanna.
Are there any other nominations? Need a motion and a second to close the floor for nominations.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Whitaker, seconded by Mr. Bear. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hannah.
Abstain for involvement.
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
Mr. Whitaker.
Yes.
Mr. Bear.
Yes.
Miss Sweet.
Yes.
Miss Least.
Yes.
Thank you all. I appreciate that.
Rick, congratulations. And to make it formal, I would entertain a motion and a second to appoint Mr. Hannah as President of Council for 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Avery, seconded by Mr. Whitaker. And call the roll.
Mr. Hannah.
Abstain.
Mr. Whitaker.
Yes.
Mr. Bear.
Yes.
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
Mrs. Sweet.
Yes.
Miss Least.
Yes.
Thank you again.
Rick, congratulations.
Appreciate it.
Next item of business, this is an emergency resolution to appoint a village solicitor for 2024. I've talked to Mr. Paul Cavanaugh, and he is willing to be our solicitor again this year. Same rate of $190 per hour. So I would entertain a motion and a second to waive the 3 reading rule for this particular resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Sweet, seconded by Mr. Bear. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Sweet.
Yes.
Mr. Bear.
Yes.
Miss Least.
Yes.
Mr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Mr. Hannah,
Yes.
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
And resolution number 24-01 is a resolution employing the village solicitor for the village of Enon from January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024, and setting the compensation and declaring an emergency. And that, of course, would be Mr. Paul Cavanaugh. And I'd need a motion and a second to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hannah and seconded by Mrs. Sweet. Call roll.
Mr. Hannah,
Yes.
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mrs. Sweet,
Yes.
Miss Least,
Yes.
Mr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Mr. Bear.
Yes.
That resolution does pass. Item number 4, a motion to establish salaries and wages for village personnel. The federal government is giving a 5.2% increase. I would recommend a cost of living increase for our employees of 5.2%. Rick and I spoke earlier, Social Security is giving a 3.2% to Social Security benefit recipients, but we felt the 5.2 would be good for our employees, and it is included in our appropriations.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Whitaker, seconded by Mrs. Sweet. Call the roll.
Mr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Sweet,
Yes.
Miss Least,
Yes.
Mr. Bear,
Yes.
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Hannah.
Yes.
Item number 5, a motion to adopt the rules of council for 2024. There are currently no changes to those, but there may be some coming this year. Mrs. Sweet, I think we had started working on that and never quite completed it. But we would need a motion and a second to adopt those.
They're just minor changes, though.
Yes.
So I'll move that we adopt the rules of council for 2024.
I'll second.
Moved by Mrs. Sweet, seconded by Mr. Bear. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Sweet,
Yes.
Mr. Bear,
Yes.
Mr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Hannah,
Yes.
Miss Least.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And the next item, we have our annual appropriations for 2024. You should have a copy of those. Page number 1, and Jeremy and I are going to kind of do this together since Rob's not here. Page number 1, total expenses for police department, $110,000. Total for recreation, health, and street lighting, $52,000. Mayor and administrative, $110,000. We did have increases from the general fund for the police department operation that would cover items like the dispatching. We wanted to make sure we had enough in there for that. I don't think we did this year. Cruiser payment, we have 2 leases going on now, and also for liability insurance. If you go to page 2, on the back side, Mayor's Court and the legislative, we have, $29,000. Fiscal officer expenses, $98.50. And under miscellaneous, we have $21,000. Total for the general fund would be $337,975. When you look at page 3, which shows what our revenue was, our balance in the general fund, and this could be adjusted a little bit for 2023, $180,782. That is about it's about $80,000 more than what we had anticipated. We anticipated about $100,000. The reason for that was we had about $20,000 less in expenses and about $60,000 more in revenue. A lot of that revenue was generated from interest that we had not expected. So we did receive more from property taxes as well, about $20,000 there, but our interest totals were about $25,000. You can see that on that line item. So we had a healthy carryover, and again, that could change just a little bit depending on if he paid any last minute bills. But based upon based upon those numbers and the estimates for anticipated receipts, our ending balance in 2024 would be $135,967. Still a very good ending balance for this year that we have estimated. If you go to page 4, under the street fund, total street expenses, $257,000. There is money in there for street repair. We haven't, I'm trying to think, Kevin, when's the last time we've actually done a street project, a road? Has it been 3 years?
It'll be coming up on 3, I think, yes.
So we put a little extra in there, capital outlay, to try to get a handle on a couple streets that are in bad shape. Total street income, $282,934, and an ending balance estimated at $25,934. Still a good balance at the end of the year. And remember, that income does come in monthly. If you go to page 5 for police levy expenses, total expenses, $426,000. That does include increases. I think what Rob did was he split, Jeremy, didn't he, some of the cruiser lease,
Yeah.
he split between the general fund and the police levy.
Right.
So he didn't hit the police levy so hard. So we have increases there. We have we have one additional officer that will be taking the medical insurance, so we increase that as well. The total police levy income, estimated about $600,000 with a balance of $174,007. Page 6, on the water fund, total expenses estimated at $1,195,600. Total revenue estimated at $1,388,606, and that would give us an ending balance of $193.06 in the water fund at the end of 2024. Still a very healthy balance. One of the conversations that we did have was the need to start putting more money back into that contingency fund and build that fund back up for probably somewhere down the road, 10 to 15 years, maybe 15 to 20, we're going to have to think about water line replacement. And you're not going to be talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. You're going to be talking millions, and you're going to be talking, maybe the selling of bonds, whatever the case is. But we need to get that built back up to help offset whatever financing avenue we end up taking. And there could be other possibilities as well. So total for all funds, $2,745,489. Total expenses, $2,216,575, with an ending balance of $528,914.
I'll move that we waive the 3 reading rule for the emergency resolution.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Whitaker, seconded by Mr. Bear. Call the roll.
Mr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Bear?
Yes.
Mr. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Least?
Yes.
Ms. Sweet?
Yes.
Mr. Avery?
Yes.
It will need a motion and a second to approve emergency resolution 2024-02, which approves those appropriations.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Whitaker, seconded by Mrs. Sweet. Call the roll.
Mr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Ms. Sweet?
Yes.
Ms. Least?
Yes.
Mr. Bear?
Yes.
Mr. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Hannah?
Yes.
I want to thank Rob for his work, even though he's not here, and Jeremy, thanks for your help sitting through it. I think it took us about 2.5 hours, and we went through line by line, but I think we have a really good appropriations for next year. So I appreciate everybody's help. The next item, appointment of council committees and board members. So We don't have to take any action this evening, but we will be losing 3 positions on the Board of Zoning Appeals. Jeremy Least will not be returning as a board member, and unfortunately, Mr. Downs, who has served for several years, passed away, and we appreciate the service. We appreciate the service, Jeremy and Mr. Downs as well. And our alternate, Mr. John Young, is also not going to renew his term, so we will have 3 vacancies there. And we have advertised, Kevin, we've got that on our Facebook or website?
Facebook, I think.
Facebook, okay. And I know there's a little bit of interest out there, so we'll see what we have for the next meeting, and hopefully we'll have candidates for that. Rob Alexander, if you look at the Planning Commission, his term will be up the end of this month, and Rob has asked to be placed on the Board of Zoning Appeals. I think Rob will do a nice job there, but in any case, if he goes up to the BZA, that's going to leave another open spot in the Planning Commission. So in any case, we're going to have, let me count these, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to have 4 spots that we're going to have to fill. So hopefully we'll have some good candidates for the next meeting. Council committees for 2024. Streets and sidewalks, I have, and if anybody wants any last minute changes, let me know. Chair, Mr. Hanna, Mr. Whitaker, Mr. Avery. Public Safety, Chair, Mr. Hanna, with Mrs. Sweet, Mr. Avery. Public Service, Chair, Mrs. Sweet, Mr. Whitaker, Mr. Bear. Parks and Beautifications, Chair, Mr. Bear, Mr. Hanna, Mr. Avery. Finance, Chairs, Mr. Whitaker, with Mrs. Sweet, Mr. Storm, Mrs. Least, and Mr. Howard. Legislative, Chair, Mrs. Sweet, with Mr. Bear, Mrs. Least. Drainage and Floodplain, Chair, Mr. Hanna, with Mr. Bear and Mrs. Least. And if that's acceptable to council, I would entertain a motion and a second to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanna and seconded by Mr. Whitaker. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hanna?
Yes.
Mr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Bear?
Yes.
Mrs. Sweet?
Yes.
Miss Least?
Yes.
Mr. Avery?
Yes.
Who did that?
Get everybody? Okay. And the last item is the appointment of a public records representative for the mayor and council for 2024. And it would be my recommendation to appoint Mrs. Tomey again this year, as she will be having all the training that's required for that particular position.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Whitaker, seconded by Mrs. Sweet.
And what was this for again? I'm sorry.
This is number 8, appointment for public records representative for basically the elected officials.
Oh, okay. Okay. Mr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Sweet?
Yes.
Miss Least?
Yes.
Mr. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Bear?
Yes.
Mr. Hanna?
Yes.
That's all the items on the agenda for the organizational meeting, so I would entertain a motion and a second to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. You good? Does anybody need a quick recess? We good?
Good.
Okay. Get all my stuff here together.
Those, I think, will Rob now.
Thank you.
Tim's got one to sign.
Sign that.
6:49 was adjourned.
Thank you.
Ready? Yep. Okay, we'll call our regular meeting to order, and this is the regular session of the Enon Village Council. This is Thursday, January 4th, 2024. Call the roll again, please.
Miss Least?
Here.
Mrs. Sweet?
Yes, here.
Mr. Bear?
Here.
Mr. Whitaker?
Here.
Mr. Avery?
Here.
Mr. Hanna?
Here.
All members of council are present. Please join me in pledging allegiance to our flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year again. 2024 is going to be a great year. We've got a lot of things planned for this year, so I'm really excited. And I would like to welcome aboard Mrs. Cindy Least. Cindy, welcome to the Enon Village Council. We're glad to have you.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Looking forward to serving the community. Excited to get started. Ready to go?
All right, we're ready if you are. So let's look at any additions to the agenda from council. Any additions? Let's go into approval of the prior meeting minutes. We'll start off with Tuesday, November 28th. If you had a chance to look at those, are there any corrections, first of all, that were noted? Any additions, corrections? Then I'd entertain a motion and a second to approve as presented.
So moved.
Second.
And moved by Mrs. Sweet, seconded by Mr. Bear. Call the roll.
Mrs. Sweet,
Yes.
Mr. Bear,
Yes.
Ms. Least,
Abstain.
Mr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Mr. Avery,
Abstain.
Mr. Hannah.
Yes.
Okay, those minutes are approved as presented. Let's go to the meeting on Tuesday, December 12th, 2023. Are there any corrections on those? Okay, entertain a motion in a second to approve those as presented.
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved by Mrs. Sweet, seconded by Mr. Whitaker. Call the roll.
Mrs. Sweet,
Yes.
Mr. Bear,
Yes.
Mr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Hannah,
Yes.
Ms. Least.
Abstain.
These are approved as presented. And again, from the financial standpoint, you have in that appropriation packet the balances that, and again, those could change a little bit per fund, but we did end up in good, not, I wouldn't say great shape, but good shape. And I want to thank Kevin, you, Mike, thank you for your attentiveness to the budget. We're going to do things a little bit differently this year. They're going to be a little bit more involved in encumbering their monies, and we're going to track things a little bit closer, but you guys did a good job last year, and we're going to do even better this year. So I appreciate that. Under items of communication, you should have there in your packets, this is an appeal been received to the village from an Ashley Montgomery at 71 Fairfield Pike. And this is based upon a decision of the Board of Zoning Appeals, and I think that appeal, I don't know where that information is in there or not, but the appeal that was taken to the board had to do with chickens, and the board denied the request to have those on the property there at 71 Fairfield Pike. Per our ordinance, that's on the last page of that packet, 118506, appeals to council. Any person can appeal a decision of the Board of Zoning Appeals per that ordinance that we have established here, and that's what this property owner has done. The village has 45 days, the council does, to set a public hearing and to hear that appeal. And Kevin, counting out the 45 days, where does that put us?
Right at the next council meeting. On January
Is it the 23rd? No. Well, let's get
6th,
that right.
No, yeah.
23rd.
Right, 23rd, okay.
Yeah, 23rd.
So January 23rd. So it would be my recommendation to have the public hearing at 6 o'clock and to hear this case, have the property owner come in, and we would have to post public notice like we did for the original BZA case, and hear comments from the property owner, from adjacent property owners, and, excuse me, and then go from there. Will that work for the rest of the council? Otherwise, we'd have to have, if that's the 45th day, you'd have to have a special meeting of the council to hear it.
That is within the 45 days, though, the 23rd. Okay. Can you send us like the kind of backup documentation from the BZA, the hearing, the ordinances that were cited, just anything pertaining to it? That way we have an idea before we come in here, you know, at least have the backstory and what all it pertains to.
Sure can, thank you.
So I'm getting clarification from our solicitor. So the hearing has to be held within 45 days, but I'm not sure a decision by council has to be made within that 45 days. Well, as soon as I get clarification, Kevin, I'll let you know, and you can shoot it out to the council members. But basically, the council could uphold the decision, could reverse the decision, with modifications. I think years ago with Speedway, Elmer, you might help me out here. I think Speedway came in, they appealed a decision by the board, and the council did some type of modified approval for Speedway, and Speedway did not. Does that sound right, Rick?
Yeah, signage.
Signage?
Signage, yeah.
That was not acceptable to them, so they did not take that offer. So the original decision by the board stood. So
I think it takes 5 of the council members to overturn.
it does. Takes a vote of 5. So we'll set that, Kevin, if you can take care of the public notice on that, make sure that the property owners, and if you would, use the same set of standards for a BZA meeting, just to make sure that those same people are notified. That would be great. Okay. Any other items of communication? Kevin, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Mayor, Council. Welcome, Miss Least.
Thank you.
Residents, Happy New Year. The first item on my agenda there is we did get our final reimbursement check from the NatureWorks grant in the amount of just a little over $13,000. So that was direct deposited in the bank account. So that project is officially over for NatureWork purposes. So. Number 2, the park fence. If anybody's been driving out there, they did get the section of the chain link fence up. So hopefully tomorrow or Monday, from my understanding, they should be done. You know, I mean, they'll have the split rail fence up and should be done by that time. Is that what you're understanding too?
Yes, and just so the council and public's aware, there was a mistake on the face of the bid that on the footage, and the gentleman has agreed to stay with the bid price, but only charge us for the material for the additional 76 feet, because we were originally quoted 500 foot, and what we're asking to be done is actually 576 feet. So felt that was fair to with the remedy on for that.
So that'll be a nice addition to the park there. It's going to make it look nice. So item number 3, we hired a couple part-time water clerks, a couple retired ladies. We did have 2 ladies in the past. It worked out pretty great. We originally was going to try one, and we interviewed and offered her a job, and in the midst of that, she accepted another position, so which we back to square one, and we talked about it. We decided we were going to go back to the 2. We hired Tina Miller and Pamela Stapleton. Pam will be working Monday and Tuesdays and because she has another part-time job. And then Tina will be working Wednesday through Friday. So Pam will be starting on the 8th, and Tina will be starting on the 10th. So if you take time to come in and introduce yourselves, I'm sure they'd appreciate that. Item number 4, we had the Cardinal Water Tower drained so they could fix the crack in the weld up in the bowl of the tank. Since then, that has been filled or repaired, filled, and it's been back online today. So everything's good to go on that.
What was the cost on that, Kevin? Was it around 15?
$11,000.
Okay.
Yeah. I think, a little over $10,000.
And they actually put in a little device that kind of takes up some of the wiggle room, if you will. It allows it to flex to where this should not only did they reinforce that, but they put this piece in that takes up a little bit of the movement that goes on, so that should not happen again. Did I understand it that way?
Should not, yeah. There's
Okay.
like a stainless steel band that goes around where it goes up into the
standpipe,
bowl, and
right.
because that pipe moves, and so that stainless steel has some sort of, for lack of a better word, shocking absorber type material or something that it just kind of takes away that stress, So.
Thank you.
Booster station updates. We, like I said in the last meeting, they got one pump transferred over. Was running on that for a while. There was just a minor leak in a compression joint that we had to fix. But other than that, it's been working great. So they're going to start on pump number 2 next week on that. So Jason and the guys were kind of prefabbing what they can. So that way when they shut down, it'll be a lot quicker, so they can change it over. So that'll start next
They
week.
did a nice job on that. That turned out it's real clean looking and everything's so accessible. They did a good job.
Yep.
Yeah.
Enon blood drives, you have the dates there. The next one's February 21st, April 24th, June 26th, August 28th, October 23rd, and December 18th for this year. I will get those posted on the website as well as have Christy put it on the Facebook. Anybody can sign up for donating at www.donortime.com. So, in the Mayor's Court report in front of you, for the month of December, there was 6 traffic cases. Total funds received for December was $4,055. Year to date, $22,506.92. Total remitted to the state, $479 for the current month, $3,763 year to date. And total remitted to the village for the current month, $3,558. And year to date, $18,505.92. Total dispersed, $4,055. Year to date, $22,506.92.
I'll move that we accept the mayor's court report as presented.
I'll second.
Moved by Mr. Whitaker, seconded by Mrs. Sweet. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Whitaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Sweet,
Yes.
Ms. Least,
Yes.
Mr. Bear,
Yes.
Mr. Hannah,
Yes.
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
And I just want to bring my last thing I added to my agenda was just wanted to let everybody know that we did have a engineer from Donnellsville representing Donnellsville come and start the discussion again, I guess, about the village of Enon supplying water to the village of Donnellsville. So we're just kind of in the preliminary stages. I think in the past they were talking about that, I don't know, years ago. I mean, way before I came, but I guess they were kind of putting up the idea again and wanted to explore that option. So
I just didn't want council to be caught off guard if they heard any comments. And just a real quick history, probably 20, 25 years ago, the Director of Utilities, Alice Godsey, put together a master plan for Clark County, and it included the village of Enon as a supplier of water eventually somewhere down the road to Donnellsville. and they do have contamination issues with some of those private wells. So I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago, there was interest in seeing if we would be willing to supply, and then that dropped off. It's picked back up again, and there's been some discussion. Are we in a position where we can do it? Yes, we are. Do we want to do it? And it would depend, in our opinions, from a profit standpoint. We can't do it and lose money. We have to be able to do it and show that it'll be profitable to benefit the entire system. So that's what we've looked at, and there's just some discussions, but it's all preliminary. But if you hear anything, this idea has been around for years, and we have built our system up to be able to take on additional consumption. But, everything would have to go through the council, but we'll see what happens.
Just starting the
It's
process
just
right now. So
preliminary, right?
So, I think that's it for now that I can think of. So,
Questions for our administrator?
Kevin, once again, on the mayor's report, we've got Laura Ewing on there. That's
Oh.
not been modified.
okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kevin, for your report. Chief, I'll turn it over to you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, residents. Happy New Year. I know I have miscellaneous communications, so here they go. Lost my train of thought for a second. I went to Eclipse training today. We had a regional meeting down in Montgomery County. For those of you who aren't aware, in April 8th of 2024, at approximately 3:08 p.m., there will be a full solar eclipse, and it's in the west central area of Ohio. I passed out a little map there. The reason why I bring this up is the next one will be in 2044, so they're a little bit gapped in time, but they expect a large influx of visitors to this area. So much so, my understanding is you can't get a hotel room or a camping site within 100 square miles of this area for that date. So it's just information passed to me. I'm be interested if anybody can rent a room that night. Let me know. But obviously there's some concerns, hence why they have a large meeting. I know the Clark County EMA, we've had a couple meetings, but I wanted to bring that to the village's attention. I'll get with the administrators and some of the department heads. We kind of discussed some of the questions posed and some training modules we went over, but I think the traffic volume is probably my largest concern, but wouldn't get ahead of that before that date comes, because unfortunately, I don't know how we avoid that. So anyways, for those of you that didn't know, that's happening.
I didn't realize we were so close to the center line of that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Good.
it's interesting. Earlier in December, Caleb McDermott from WHIO did she was doing a study on law enforcement about the interest in, the hiring issues that agencies have across the area. And she'd asked me to do an interview, and I did, and it was beneficial because the next day, I had a couple people send me some emails, and I didn't respond to them. But I was very appreciative of the support I got from some of the community talking about they saw it coming. But more importantly, some folks were interested in coming to work for us. I received a couple calls and an application where I did interview somebody Tuesday. We did an interview to fill the full-time spot that council had approved earlier in 2023. I just have not found anybody, an eligible applicant, to fill that spot, but we did interview one Tuesday. I'm optimistic, I'm hopeful, but I want to thank them for reaching out and showing some interest in that and helping us with this issue. It's kind of causing law enforcement. And then I got a call today from Commander Weber at Clark State, who just brought to my attention they were supposed to start an academy class in January. Again, the state minimum is 10, and he informed me that they only had 8, and 3 of them were coming from an agency, so they already had positions, but the state denied him that class of the 8. So he had asked, he's going to reach out to OPATA and we'll see if we can't figure it out. But I just to give you an idea, is if it takes a couple months for us to do the interview and the background and stuff like that, and of course training, it takes a couple months, but rough idea is if those folks were employed and now if they can't start the day academy, those we have one in start in March, or the night academy in May, if there's enough folks, that doesn't put them in a car roughly doing the job out of training and all that for about 1.5 years. So that's what I think is really, I want folks to open eyes up. So anybody interested in law enforcement, again, please reach out to me. Be more than happy to give you all my insight and input and what I appreciate from it. And then I just, like I said, I want to thank the attention I got, and I wanted to let you folks know that we finally got some folks that show a little interest here. So, short of that, I hope everybody had a good Christmas. We had a good New Year. I think it went well. And that's the end of my report.
I heard fireworks on New Year's Eve.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
legal
South Vienna
fireworks.
Suspended the police department.
What's that?
South Vienna suspended the police department.
Yeah, I did see that on the news. South Vienna, they got rid of their police department. They contracted with the county. I guess they only had 2 officers over there, and they were having a hard time attracting people to help. So, struggle was real.
Questions for our chief?
Can we, I know, I forget when the last one we got was, but like the monthly stats, you still track those?
Yes, I do. I'm going to put those in my yearly report, which I hope to have by the next council meeting. But yeah, I apologize for not having those out. I was going to do them quarterly. I just kind of switched up and I hadn't been doing it. But yeah, I'll get those to you, and then I will do those if council would like them monthly, or if you'd like them quarterly, whatever.
Monthly would be good.
Okay.
Yep,
I'll get those to you monthly like I was before.
appreciate it. Any other questions, comments? Thanks, chief. Appreciate it. Committee reports, Mr. Bear, I will turn it over to you.
Good evening, everyone. We got a return from Mr. Kavanaugh of our ordinance about the donations for the community park. They're still looking for some clarification on definitions of what a gift and a donation is according to the Ohio Ethics Committee. So once I get clarification on that, if everyone's okay with that, I'd like to share that ordinance with the township trustees who are our partners in this project for their approval. If everyone's okay with that.
Sure.
So once I get clarification from Mr. Kavanaugh about that, I'll be doing that. And secondly, we had a good turnout of applications for the community group. And I'd like to set a tentative meeting for January 10th. It'll be more of a work session for the park committee and some township trustees, if we can get them to show up, to discuss these applications. If everyone's on the committee is okay with that. Mr. Avery, Mr. Hannah? 6 o'clock?
Yeah.
So,
And how many applicants did you have, or letters of interest, I should say, for the park thing?
it was 8, I believe.
Awesome.
We had a good mix
Good.
of village and township, so.
Glad to hear it.
So I will share those with them as well, and hopefully we'll get this knocked out, and we'll have some recommendations by the next meeting. That's
Just
all
real
I-
quick, part of the problem with accepting donations, evidently, and I don't know that it's actually a problem, but trying to decipher a donation, is it considered a gift or is it considered a payment for some type of consideration? So that's what our solicitor is looking at, and this is a recent ruling or opinion or judgment by the Ohio Ethics Commission that came out last year. And once we figure out exactly what that is all about, how does it affect the village? Or maybe it doesn't, but we just want to make sure that we get all this straight before we go forward with the ordinance. So that's kind of the story on that. But thanks, Ben, for the report. Any other committee reports? We have no old business, no new business.
If I could, by mistake, it dawned on me that we had the meeting with the Moats Group.
Yes, I forgot all about that.
Yeah. On December 18th, the Moats Group, MOTZ Group, contacted us and met with me at the park and met with the mayor later here at the office. They are large contractor out of the Cincinnati area for parks, recreation, and general engineering duties. They're currently doing the Fifth Third remodel at the Dayton Dragons ballpark. They're also doing the building of Fairborn High School's football field, baseball fields. They do a lot of professional stadiums as well with the Metzger Group that we talked to previously down there. Mr. Stephen Torbeck was the one that we met with. He lives local. Once again, very, very enthused about our site and the proximity to I-70 and 675 and Columbus, Dayton, Cincinnati area. He also was very pleasant and very excited about the possibility of Moats being able to help us figure on the engineering process and the interest that they would have in trying to move forward, similar to what MSP did whenever MSP provided their vision in here. So we look forward to hearing more from them. Mayor may want to add something on that because we did talk to him for quite a while, but it's nice to see engineering groups come in and say, we can do this for you, or that you've got started on the right path, that now this is where you need to go. So we fortunately have not shot ourselves in the foot on the project yet, but we're continuing to head forward, and they were very complimentary on where we are right now and the steps that we have taken, for what it's worth.
Well, the part that I really liked was they were willing to look at what we had already come up with, offer some suggestions at no price, and that was mentioned, for any kind of modifications, and also to give us some type of an estimate on some parts of it. So we'll see what he comes back with, again, all at no charge, but to kind of give us some kind of an idea of, for a particular phase, what we'd be looking at. So, anything else? Comments from the public?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned.
7:17.
Thanks, everybody.